right, welcome everybody. My name is Jesse and I am the Media Training Manager with the Bureau of Education and Research. Today I'm joined by Kelly Harmon. Her seminar, Catching Up Students Who've Fallen Behind in Reading or Writing for Grades 3 through 5, is now offered by BER as an on-demand course. Kelly, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me to meet with you today. I'm super excited to talk about this great course that I'm just passionate about.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about it too. And before we get going on that talk, could you take a moment to introduce yourself for those who haven't attended one of your workshops?
Sure. So I have been working with the Bureau of Education and Research for and now going on 20 years. And before that, I was a classroom teacher at the elementary level, a reading specialist. I worked for the state of Texas at a region service center as a reading language arts specialist. And then in the last 20 years, I've worked in lots of different capacities with schools across the nation and just helping schools really focusing on struggling students. So this makes my 32nd year as an educator.
Wow. How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, now that we're empty nesters, it really helps. But I tell you what, in that 32 years, I've also raised 3 children and then had 3 stepchildren. And now we have 10 grandchildren. So lots of children that I've worked with. And some of those children aren't my own personal children, have also been struggling readers and writers. So I come to this from both the professional stance, but also as a parent and grandparent. And that's why I'm really excited to share the ideas.
Absolutely. So now let's just shift gears here a little bit and talk about the course, Catching Up Students Who've Fallen Behind in Reading or Writing for Grades 3 through 5. So just to start us off, what was your motivation behind creating this seminar? Is this an issue that's been ongoing in education, or is this a newer issue?
Well, you know what? We have been catching up students for over 50 years. I mean, we've had Title I, we've had, special services that we provide students who are at risk. So catching up students is something that we, as an educator, we've always had to do. But gosh, the pandemic really threw us for a loop. When we went into lockdown and spent 2 to 3 months, almost not really having much instruction going on. And then we come back the next year and many of our students stayed virtual. Some students stayed virtual the entire year. The asynchronous versus the synchronous was just not the same. And then we had students come back in hybrid situations, which was so unfair to teachers because they were having to teach kids in front of them as well as be on live. And let's just face it, it was the hardest thing we've ever faced in education. And so, then last year we thought we were going to have such a better year, but wow, we still struggled a lot last year. So teachers kept asking for, how do I do this? Everybody was so stressed. And I just wanted to share with them ideas, things that are going to help catch students up that aren't going to take a lot of preparation. It really takes just kind of a mind shift of thinking about focusing on the learning rather than the teaching. And so that was my motivation, is just to share ideas and lots of research-based strategies that work for kids when they are behind, and accelerating them rather than, the traditional remediation that tends to take a lot longer. So helping teachers was my motivation.
Absolutely. We love that. So specifically, would you mind just going over a little bit on some of the topics that are covered in the seminar?
Oh, absolutely. So in the seminar, I really focus in on the routines and strategies that are proven, the research-based strategies that are proven to get 1.5 to 3 years growth in our students in just 1 year's time. And so I go through those strategies, starting with focusing on planning backward design and how do we figure out what's the most important things for students to learn. We look at the vertical alignment. So if they're 3rd grade now, Well, guess what? That last year, 2 years ago, they were first graders. So there's going to be some foundation skills, some pieces that might not be in place. But how do I make sure that they're going to get the third grade content? Well, they don't have the first and second grade. So how do we scaffold up is a huge part of the training, is scaffolding students up to grade level. So I share lots of different ways that we can do that. And then we go through those routines and strategies that have been proven to really make great gains. And I do talk about some that are kind of common strategies that don't get us much leverage, but how we can, kind of this, not that, and how is that going to help the kids catch up in an accelerated form.
Absolutely. And you talked about these strategies. One of the things that I'm curious about from a behind the scenes perspective is, how do you decide, when you have so many tools and resources and strategies that you're sharing, how do you decide which ones make it into the course? I have to imagine there's a few, or quite a few, that you end up leaving out. So what is that process like?
Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. I mean, the training is about 5 hours long, and I could probably go on for weeks with the strategies and the techniques. So, what I've done is I've gone through and the ones that are the most impactful strategies. So I do give 10 action strategies that are kind of big ideas to focus on. For example, one of them is partnering with students and helping our students take ownership of their learning, and teacher clarity is part of that. How we are very clear to the students and we're giving them the success criteria that they need, and then helping students to self-evaluate. Big rocks. So I talk about how we do that. So I really had to narrow it down to like 10 big ideas, but with that are about 50 techniques that go with those ideas. So more than one way. And of course, they get the resource book, which has links to a shared Google folder. I've got, resources on my website, kellyharmon.net, they can refer to, and pictures and examples from classrooms. I'm fortunate that of all of my children, most of them are teachers in some capacity, some at the elementary, some at the high school. So, even my kids are using these strategies and getting huge results with those. So I share from their classrooms. I share from the classrooms that I work in. But I share the ones that are the most impactful. Like I said, we're looking for those strategies that get 2 to 3 years growth in 1 year and are easy to implement, because we don't want to have to take tons of time to have to get things together. They're doable next day.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I know that practicality is such a big deal. And I'm curious, you talk about easy to implement and being able to use these strategies the next day. So what are some of those bigger immediate takeaways that teachers can bring from this course and use immediately?
Oh yeah. So, of course, our students need foundation skills. Absolutely. And so, but they're third, fourth, and fifth grade. And there's often not a curriculum scope and sequence or programs or things that you can use. So one of the things I talk about is how to get kids really thinking, and I'm big on rigor as far as at the analysis level. So I want them to always be in that analysis, thinking about it. So we play a lot of games that require them to be strategic, and so that's a takeaway. You will be able to play the games the next day with your students. We will play some of those games, and then you'll be able to do them, and then there'll be even more offered to you in the shared folder. And then we also look at the impact of background knowledge. And I've created some text sets that I share with the teachers using some of the online libraries that we have that get kids just building their world knowledge. And that's really going to help those kids that are struggling to decode it when they're entering a text. They'll have an entry point into the text. So you'll be able to immediately take away lots of strategies for getting kids to activate their background knowledge or build their background knowledge. And then curiosity has to play a part of that, right? So how do I get kids to want to learn by creating some text sets and things that are based on their curiosity? So those are just a few. Of course, we're going to talk about comprehension. We're going to talk about close reading. And oh my gosh, we have so much fun with close reading in this seminar because we use a lot of popular music. And the kids really like that. And it's a nice launching point to go into complex text. And then when we look at writing, we look at close writing, careful and purposeful writing on the same topic over a period of time, and then strategies for grammar and mechanics that make it doable so that they get what they need quickly, and they have lots of opportunity to practice.
Absolutely. And there's so many takeaways here, so many strategies. One of the things that I love about this on-demand format is people can come back to the resources. So even after they've taken the course, they can go back, rewatch segments if they need to soak in a strategy again, or they forget, oh, what was Kelly talking about? They're able to kind of pace themselves that way. So lots of content that people can immediately use and then just go back to as they need to. And that's one of the things that I'm most excited about with this format, especially with all of the resources and strategies that you provide. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you have several workshops that you do with BER, and they cover a variety of topics in education. So when you think about this seminar in particular, as it relates to your other ones, what stands out about this one? What makes it special to you?
Oh gosh, almost all of my seminars relate to struggling students. So in literacy and in math. But really when I developed this one, it's my favorite. It's only a one-day seminar. Many of the work I do with the BER is 2 days. But in that one day, it's so packed full of really practical things that help kids think, that get the kids to really owning the learning and accelerating learning. So yeah, this one, it's just a lot of information, but also a lot of processing there. And it just, it's a fun day. Actually, we have a lot of fun during this day as well. So
it is a lot of fun. I'm not even a classroom teacher, and I had fun watching everything. So
good.
Well, Kelly, thank you for your time. Once again, Kelly's on-demand course, Catching Up Students Who've Fallen Behind in Reading or Writing for Grades 3 through 5, is now available on BER's website. Thanks again, Kelly.
Thank you.